Hello and welcome to this self-care webinar. I'm Kim Furnish and I'm going to walk you through this introduction to self-care presentation. Firstly, what qualifies me to share this information with you? I am a life coach who holds a master's in positive psychology with a particular interest in self-care and relationships, including the one we have with ourselves. I also provide meditation courses and laughter yoga. I co-present a podcast related to personal development and positive psychology. I am the author of a parenting book, Parenting a Violent Child, and an ebook, Life's Gifts, which is a collection of personal development strategies and tips. So here are the objectives for today. What self-care is and what it's not. My journey. The overview of the sessions of our Project U course and practical ways to make time for Project U. Self-care is essential to a flourishing life, to replenish, recharge and restore our bodies. It also keeps us physically, mentally and emotionally healthy. Self-care is listening to what your body and mind are telling you they need. Self-care is self-respect. Self-care is healthy. It's important. It's necessary. And self-care is also taking care of your mind and your thoughts. Taking care of your mental health and your physical health and body, and your spiritual health and your emotional health. Self-care is not selfish, self-indulgent, lazy, optional. So here's a metaphor that you may have come across before. I've heard it quite a lot recently. And the metaphor is that when you go onto an aeroplane and you're traveling, that what you will hear in the safety speech is to put your own oxygen mask on first before you try and help anyone else in event of an emergency. And as this illustration shows, you fit your own oxygen mask first is a great metaphor because you're no use to anyone if you're running on empty. Caring for yourself first is often the best thing you can do in order to help others. It isn't selfish or egocentric. So I want to say a little bit about my journey. In 2019, after a period of ill health, I wanted to improve my self-care. I knew that I needed to improve my self-care. I knew enough about self-care to know that it would be good for me to focus on it for a while, particularly my basic needs. I refer to the basic needs if you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which states that the basic needs at the bottom of the hierarchy are things like sleep and water and food before you even get to the next level, which is security. So for me, looking at my basic needs, this was about the amount of sleep I was getting and the amount of water I was drinking. And at this point, when I started this journey, I hadn't really researched either of these two. I just knew that I wasn't sleeping well and that I could do with drinking more water. So the first thing that I did was I concentrated on sleep and intended to improve my sleep. And I bought a weighted blanket. This is something that I'd read about, I'd heard about, and that it helps people sleep. So that's what I bought, and it did, and it worked really well. And I also monitored my sleep on Fitbit. And I also read a book by Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep, which was really helpful and gave me some ideas about sleep habits. And as far as hydration goes, I bought a gadget called Oola, and that fixes to a bottle and it blinks every time, very frequently, so it makes that you're topped up with water, and that worked well for a while as well. And then what happened, which I think often happens with new things that we try out, and it's a word called habituation. So it's when something's familiar and you kind of like don't take any notice of it anymore, and that's what happened with that. Also, what I did is I added fruit and cucumber to plain water because I didn't like the plain taste of water, so it just gave it a variety. So that's what happened with sleep and hydration. And then in 2020, what I aimed to do was to improve the amount of out of breath exercise, getting my heart rate out, feeling of out of breath. Because although I was walking, I wasn't necessarily getting out of breath. And also wanted to meditate more. So I just want to bring your attention to the lessons that I learned, which was for the sleep. What I found was that if I had a regular sleep routine, that helped, and it was recommended to go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time. So as much as I could, I tried to attain that. And then hydration, keep bottles of water filled and put them everywhere. And that's something else that I did as well. So as I say, the sleep and the water was going okay, and I started on exercise, and then along came the challenge because my body stopped me. My mind knew that I needed to rest. This was during lockdown, but I continued to play out the same pattern, which is I won't stop until I'm forced to. That is my pattern. So what happened was I had quite a severe bout of sciatica. And this put me out of action for probably about 3 or 4 months. And at the beginning, I carried on trying to do what I would normally do. I couldn't see a chiropractor because it was during lockdown, which is what that would have been my go-to. Eventually, I did see my chiropractor, which was when my healing was in full action then. And my lessons around this time was listen to your body. Suffering is part of life because I was pushing that suffering away. I didn't want it. And it's okay not to be okay. And these were the things that people around me were telling me. So kind souls were giving me this advice. And eventually I took it on board. Accept help. I needed to accept help because I couldn't hardly move. And also send your pain some love. So almost like some self-compassion. Yes, I was in pain. Instead of fighting it, give it some love. And so after this period of sciatica, I was healed, I started to get back on track with meditation and exercise. Now meditation, I was more able to put in a regular meditation practice, and I value what meditation gives me, which is peace and stillness and acceptance. And exercise, I increased my out of breath. I was introduced to Couch to 5K, and I did that over a period of 9 weeks and continued running, and I still do that 3 times a week. So my lessons were about making time to meditate and start small. Even if you meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's starting it, and think of it as a practice. And it's similar really in the ways of exercise, build it up, exercise gradually, and Couch to 5K really taught me that, to really start small. I started running for 1 minute and now I'm running for 45 minutes. So what a difference. And also what I've realised is running is a mindful activity for me. So they are very linked, the exercise and the meditation. So time for you. What does that look like? When if I said to you, what is time for you? What does that look like for you? And is it of high importance or is it optional? Is that how you see it? And also, would you give it away easily to someone in need? And I think what I've become aware of is that time for you, you have to take it. And sometimes we find it hard to take things because we give. It's easier to give than to take. And maybe just reflect on what is time for you and whether you find it hard to take for yourself. So I've had some feedback from other people, and this is what we've come up with. What does that look like? And it could be any of these things. Could even be going to the bathroom in peace, especially if you've got a young family. Could be just sitting with a cup of tea in peace and taking that time to sit with it. Reading a book. Taking a walk alone. Doing some crafts and creative pursuits. And maybe having some time to organise and sort cupboards, paperwork. If that's something that you like to do, then that would be time for you. Taking a nap. And then I've also collected some barriers from people, and this is what they've said. Time for you, what can get in the way is that you haven't got time, or you feel that you haven't got time for it. Caring responsibilities, whether that's for a child or for an elderly person. Guilt, quite often it goes against our moral code that we're giving ourselves time because we've been taught to give that time to other people. And also, some people know that self-care is good, but they don't know where to start. So my suggestions would be to write a list of activities that you like to do. Maybe draw a mind map, get creative, sheet of paper, coloured pens, draw a mind map of the activities that you like to do. Or you could write ideas on the paper or on a piece of paper and then put it into small pieces, put it in a jar and pick one out. When you have that opportunity to have time for yourself, or as a regular practice, just pick one out and do that thing that you've written. And the time around that, you can, for self-care, you can take 10 minutes a day, or you can take a whole afternoon or a whole day or a whole morning. Make you time a priority. Put it in your diary. You know, we put appointments in our diary, but we don't put ourselves in our diary. And I know in the early days that really helped me. I used to put in my diary, me time. I didn't say what I was doing with it. It was just time for me. Have visual reminders around you in your environment. Me time or Project You, whoever that is. So for me, it would be Project Kim. Put project and your name and put it around you so that you get used to spending and giving that focus to yourself. So a little overview then of Project You, which is the course that we run. It's an 8-week course, and it could be done on an individual basis, or it can be done in a group. It could be run in a group. So the consequences of poor sleep are written here. The consequences of poor sleep are on your mental health, productivity, learning. There's a whole list of that there, and I'll let you just read those for yourself. But what I did find out with my research is that it's daily and cumulative. So that it just builds, the less sleep we have, the more damage we're doing to ourselves, really, on our physical, mental health, performance, on our relationships and our interactions, on our concentration and on our memory. And a lot of this information I took from Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. So in the course, what we talk about is 3 golden rules. And these golden rules are heat and light and habits. So what I'm going to focus on in this presentation is habits. So it's important to get into a calm state for sleep. And a way you can get into a calm state is a calming scent, like some people like lavender. It might be something different for you, but something calming that is your sense of smell. Chamomile tea, which you can drink. Reading an hour before sleep. Meditation is good for getting into a calm state. Unplugging electronic devices. Using night shift mode on your iPhone. And offload your brain into a journal before sleep. So writing that journal, getting things down on paper. And also touch. There's a practice called havening, which is about soothing your body just by rubbing you could do that by stroking your arms, by soothing your nervous system. And then we come on to the benefits of water. And what I discovered is that water helps with digestion, weight loss, it improves your skin texture and the way it looks, body temperature, it's good for regulation, constipation, it's good for flowing waste out of your body, mood swings, and joints and muscles. So there is everything, really helps your body with everything, and I'll go into much more detail on the course about water. So barriers, what are the barriers to good water habits? And this is what we've come up with in our course. We don't like it. It doesn't taste of anything. You know, I do know people that do like water, the taste of water, but personally I don't particularly like it either. So what can we do if we don't like the taste of anything? Well, recognize that it's not supposed to really taste of anything, but we can add something to the water, and the recommendation would be something natural like fruit, or any sort of herbs or vegetables. I quite like cucumber in my water. And if I drink water, I'll be in the bathroom all day. And I think that does happen when we get dehydrated and then we do drink and it kind of just seems to run out of us. And there's a great metaphor that I came across, which is if you think of a plant that is withering, wilting, and you put water in it, the water runs out because the roots aren't used to holding the water. So we're the same. We're plants with emotions, and this will happen in the beginning when you drink lots of water. It will run out of you, but your body does get used to it. So perseverance. Exercise is another one that we look at. So some people experience pleasure when exercising, and others experience displeasure. And I think it's working out which group are you in. So on this presentation, I'm going to look at the mental health benefits of exercise because I think most of us know that it's really good to keep our bodies moving, toned up, and we look different, we feel different. But what about mental health? And the mental health benefits of exercise is it helps you feel in control of your body and your health. So you have that self-esteem and you also have the mastery. And part of that mastery is witnessing yourself get better at something, which also gives you feelings of self-worth. And you feel proud that you've accomplished something. And you also can be connected with other people, especially if you join a group of something. So that's social contact, friendship, and support. And this is something I've really experienced with my new activity of running, that I feel that I'm in control and I feel good because I've achieved goals. I'm achieving goals. I feel really proud, and I also feel connected to others. So the next area then will be food. So this is one that I resisted a bit because I don't really know much about food, but I do think that it is an individual. We all, as individuals, we kind of know what foods we like and what foods we don't like. But do we look at it as good food or bad food? And actually, it would be a good thing to look at it as healthy food. So we've got an idea of good foods and bad foods. So on the green is maybe the good food that we know about, and the bad food, the more beigey colour foods with high fat content, high carbohydrate content. But in terms of this course, what I'm going to be looking at is healthy food, and also the diet culture as opposed to a healthy culture of eating. So a little bit of research about why diets don't work. A review of over 30 long-term studies showed that going on a diet causes weight gain. And the more diets someone has tried, the more they weigh. And 95% of people who lose weight on a diet regain the weight back. So there's that whole boomerang effect of keep going back to diets, coming off diets, keep going back to them. And this is what the research shows, that they really don't work. So what does work? Well, we look at mindset on the course, and here's a little taster of that. The difference between a diet mentality and a health mentality. So the diet mentality focuses on food as the enemy, bad habits, and doing things temporarily. I'm going on a diet for a short time until I get to a certain weight or until this event. And it also focuses on things you don't like about yourself. Focuses on the scales, hopping on, hopping off of scales. And also there's a finish line to it. I'll go on a diet, stop when I get to a certain weight. Well, the health mentality is more long term, thinks of food as fuel, thinks about good habits and things you're doing forever, things you want for yourself, daily choices, healthy, good choices, and seeing it as a lifelong journey. And on the course, we look at mindful eating and intuitive eating. And so on to rest and relaxation. So here is on this quote on the side there: if you just allow your body and mind to rest, the healing will come by itself. And quite often we're on a treadmill, metaphorically, just keep going, regardless of what gets thrown at us. We just feel that we've got to keep going, and no rest. So you're not responsible for fixing everything that is broken. You do not have to try and make everyone happy. Give yourself permission to rest. You cannot go without a rest, however hard you push yourself. So resting, we look at and explore, and what rest means to you. We explore that on the course. And relaxation. Think about the pause button and hit the pause button now and again. And do those things that you enjoy. So don't be afraid to press pause on the external world as you tune into the wisdom you already hold inside yourself. Listen carefully, which is real good self-care. Listen carefully to what your mind and body are telling you that it needs. So we look much more at relaxation and rest. And then self-talk. So this is another part of self-care. Notice how you talk to yourself, and you deserve to be treated well. So if you find that you are talking to yourself in a negative way, you're critical, you're punishing, it's time to bring in some kindness and self-compassion. So treat yourself as you would a very dear friend. If your friend was going through what you're going through, you would most likely to treat them with kindness and compassion. And also think about a growth mindset. If any of these things that you want to change, the habits that you want to change, rather than saying I can't, change it to I can't do it yet, which leaves open opportunities for you to do it. And here is the kindness and the self-compassion. Treat yourself with compassion. Be your own best friend, your ally, not your enemy. Accept your limitations and find ways to make now more comfortable. Live in the here and now. Be present. So something else included in self-care really is about being you, being the best part of you or the best of you. So when we step into our own power, what we do is we drop others' expectations and opinions of us. We have the courage to say no. We also have the courage to say yes to those things that we're afraid to say yes to. And we can then be discerning. And also part of stepping into your own power is getting comfortable with self-reflection, looking inward. When you step into your own power, you can discover your true self. And with self-care, you can discover your true self too, because you're giving yourself permission to be you. And you can learn to forgive yourself and others and live your own life and do what matters most to you. And do what makes you feel alive and happy. So having heard all of what I've talked about today, what you can do is set an intention. What have you heard that you would like to change? And part of that intention will be a SMART goal, which will be small and measurable and achievable and realistic and have a time boundary upon it. And just a little quote there about changes. Your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. And something about the Project You Self Care course is that it's supportive, and that we're all going through changes. We all want to make changes. We all want to keep self care on the table. And so it gives you that opportunity to have peer support while you're making changes. So, a lovely quote here by Robert Thurman, and it is: don't worry about what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So here's some details about the Project You Self course. It is run as an online interactive course, but it also can be delivered on a one-to-one basis. Here are some resources for you. I have a wellbeing survey on my website. Blurt It Out is a really good site for self-care, and there's a video there. Sometimes we can find ourselves in situations where we take them personally, and this is one of the videos that I use on the course. And last but not least, have a listen to our podcast. This is the podcast that I run with V Portland, and everything on this podcast is about personal development and positive psychology, and there will be some self-care episodes in there. So thank you for listening, and get in touch if there are any questions that you have. instarcoach@gmail.com. Thank you.